So this is going to be a very short tutorial on how to use sed. Now sed is this tool called a stream editor, because if I just do a man sed, you can see that it's a stream editor for filtering and transforming text. Basically what you use it for is replacing one word in a certain file with another word. And I actually have a file here called just file, and it contains some dummy text, right? It contains the foo bar, stuff like that. And you'll notice that I have this word here called foo with some special capitalization. And I'm going to use sed here to replace some stuff in this file. So first I'm going to replace this word with the actual proper word, which is just regular foo. And the way you do that is you use sed, and then in these quotes like so, you do s, a slash. So s basically stands for search, I think that's what it stands for. And then we can simply specify this thing right here. Then we do a slash to replace it with just your regular foo, and we're gonna end that. Then we're gonna do that to this file, and now you'll notice that it did actually do that. Now we have foo being the correct capitalization. But what this did is that it just gave us raw output. There's no sort of like modifying the file or anything. Now I'm gonna do one more thing here. I'm gonna replace every instance of foo with foo like so. Now this is also going to give me raw input. But then how do I modify this file to make these changes? So what you probably want to do is that if I get this file, this is still that regular file, but I probably wanted to replace all of these foos with this foo and then modify it. Now the way you do this on a standard system that's using the GNU core utils is with this flag called -i. But that's not the proper way to do it. I'll talk about how you actually do it later. But if I just go to the man page for sed, it should show you this right here called -i. Dash in place is basically what it is, and it's going to edit files in place. That basically means it's going to edit the file that you give it. So it's just going to modify that file instead of giving you raw output. And that's just a GNU core utils thing. So that's the problem with it. If you're using like Alpine Linux, for example, then you don't actually have that -i flag there, because it's not a thing, right? So the proper way you should do it is that you redirect this, right? So you redirect file, and then you do a temp file like so, and then you do an and then we move temp file to file. Now just to explain what's going on here, basically when you do a redirection, that basically means you take all of the output from this command, and then you put all of that output into this file right here. Now you may be wondering, well, can't we just output it to this file directly? Well, you can't, because if you actually try to do that, then that's basically going to leave the file empty. So you're going to have to create a temporary file to actually do that. So what you do is that you'd move this to this temp file, and then you will move that temp file to file. That basically means we're going to rename temp file to file. And right now if I just execute this command and I get file, you can see that I have my changes applied here. So I have my foo set to capitalized, and let's do that one more time with this foo right here. So I'm going to replace that with your regular foo G, and then I'm going to do file, and I'm going to redirect that to temp file and move temp file to file. Now if I get file, you can see that all of the words that contain foo is replaced with foo with capitalization. Now let's say I want to undo this change. Now the easiest way to do that is just to replace every instance of foo with foo like so. That's actually just the way that works best. So you can just do file and then do all of that at temp file stuff again. So you move the temp file to the actual file that you want. You can get the file, and now we're back to whatever we were, stuff like that. And that's just a basic explanation of how you use sed and the proper way to use it. Now let's talk about why I used this temp file instead of the -i flag. I've already talked about that. It's because of the GNU core utils, right? So this -i flag is this bloated feature that it comes only installed in the GNU core utils. So if you're using something like BusyBox or something like that, then the -I flag is actually not gonna exist because it's not POSIX compliant, stuff like that. And that's also why a lot of GNU stuff like GNU Bash is also not POSIX compliant, which I'm going a little off topic here, but if I just do a test.sh, then I actually already have this file. I have no idea when I created it, but this is a dash script right here. But if I were to convert this to bash, the way you do this stuff in bash is that you'd have like these two brackets, right? So you'd have okay, I'm struggling to type here, but you'd have two brackets, then you'd also have these two equal signs, and that's how you do it in bash. But that's not the proper POSIX compliant way to do it. So if you were to switch this to dash, which is a POSIX compliant shell, then this is how you'd actually do it. And it's important to keep your things POSIX compliant, mainly because it's going to be a lot more faster, and it is the proper documentation following way to do it, because all of this GNU stuff is just this GNU stuff. That's just bloat that you only see on GNU programs and nothing else. Anyways, that's pretty much it for this video about sed and POSIX compliancy. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you later. I gotta go.